technology consultant at Muskegon Area ISD. And I have Dave Johnson with us today. And Dave is from, I'll let him introduce himself, but he's been doing some work with the Social Studies Project. He is a consultant, and he works with a Northern Michigan Learning Consortium. We are recording this. This is part of our goal is to extend Moodle beyond just the My Moodle Moot event. We are going to have a Q&A pod that's going to be open up on the right-hand side of the screen. You should see it now. You can write questions in there, and then Dave, we'll try to get those answered. So I'm going to hang up or go mute here and let Dave go ahead and take over.
Hello, Andy, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? All right, excellent. I am Dave Johnson. I am the social studies consultant for the entire North. Pretty much everything north, let's flip that to be geographically correct. Pretty much everything north of the knuckles, but south of whatever I'm doing up here. So I work for 11 intermediate school districts as a social studies consultant. And one of the cool things about working with a group of people that are spread out over such a huge region is that really 3/4 of what I do ends up becoming regional trainings and bringing teachers together at a regional level, which I think a lot of people at the ISD world would like to do, but we're limited sometimes by our borders. So what you guys are going to see today came out of a need from across my northern zone. Everyone was saying that we didn't assess social studies as well as they would have liked. And so I told a group of them to put their money where their mouth was and let's spend some time, we're on our 3rd year at this point, developing some social studies assessments that represent what they wanted to do. When I sent the teachers away for the very first time to write questions after we'd had our initial meeting, they all came back on the 2nd day with multiple choice and essay questions. And they were all wondering like, man, I just feel like we could do so much better. And so I investigated. I had a lot of help from Andrew Steinman from Kent ISD. He turned me on to these plugins that I'm going to share with you today, which need to be installed in a group. I'll call them the Super 6, and I'll get on with that in just a moment. But the ultimate end product was we were able to create some pretty amazing, in my opinion, I'm a little biased, but pretty amazing social studies assessments that are online. We know that online testing is where we're headed. So anytime you have the opportunity to give your students a chance to do an online assessment, it's a good thing. And not only are they online, but they mimic what other next generation assessments are trying to do. So I'm going to share with you guys today what the Super 6 are and what they look like and how they function. In most of the cases, I'll be able to show you an example or two from the PASST project. And ultimately, you should leave today with a better understanding of these 6 Moodle plugins, which are very easy to install, and hopefully some good ideas for how to use them to assess a little bit differently. So that's the goal today. If I succeed in all of those things, then I'll give you all an Air 5 at the end and we'll be on our way. I'm going to take just a second here to share my screen. I have a presentation that is available at, I put it at a bit.ly. So I'm going to do just a couple of seconds of dead air here while any of you who would like to follow along in this presentation head to the bit.ly link that is here down at the bottom. Like I said, I'll do just a half minute or so of dead air while anyone that would like to open that link goes there.
We might mention that this bit.ly will be posted to the mymoodlemoot.org site. And so if you're wanting to watch this video when you're done, it's being recorded to YouTube right now, and the link to the YouTube video will be posted. It's also available right now in the link in the chat if you have access to the green chat on the side, but I'm not sure you do. I think maybe only Dave and I have access to that. But you can look into questions and ask questions, but just know mymoodlemoot.org. This will be there along with the recording.
Perfect. And my email address is in here as well, but you can grab that probably from the today's presentation available at link there. And I'm trying to do better about being on Twitter. So if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, I am at not Dave Johnson. Go figure, Dave Johnson was taken, but not Dave Johnson was not. So that's my little plug for that. All right, so I'm in full screen mode, and I'm gonna click over to my very first slide here. Like I said at the beginning, some reasons to add these to your Moodle site will hopefully become apparent as I go through and showcase them. But a lot of my teachers came to their second day of the PASST project writing camps and were developing the same sorts of questions that they had developed before. They were thinking multiple choice, they were thinking essay question, and the essays were becoming unmanageable, and the multiple choice they didn't feel like were assessing students deeply enough. So these plugins, I mocked up some items for them and showed them, and it was like a whole bunch of light bulbs went off, and they went, yes, 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 we can take this and run with it. Student assessment is shifting. You know, as you all probably are aware, we're in the midst of our first year of wide-scale online testing for our state assessments. And, you know, you can talk all you want about whether you like or dislike the M-STEP, but I think that, you know, online assessment is here to stay. And I think that we in the classroom level, especially when you look at digital learners and how they learn differently than previous generations, I think looking at how to build a very good in-class assessment for your students is very necessary. And these plugins make it easy for you to do that, for you to create some items that help you as a teacher know better in your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month assessments, how your students are doing mastering some of these standards. Adding the plugins, I should say, whether you are a novice or the Moodle guru for your area, adding the plugins is quick and painless. It's really just a matter of downloading them and unzipping the file into your question directory on the server, and it's pretty much good to go at that point. And I have some instructions, which are at the very end of this presentation, in the form of a Google Doc that can help walk you through some of that process. So I call these the Super 6. They are 6 plugins that come from Open University. OU has a lot of plugins that you can add to your Moodle directory, but these are 6, and generally they have to be installed together. They are drag and drop markers, drag and drop into image, drag and drop into text. Those are 3 different drag and drop types that each behave just a little bit differently, and I'll showcase some of those for you today. Pattern match, which we have not used in the PASST project yet, but are very, very excited about using in the future when we have some examples of you know, acceptable student work to help build them with. But pattern match can actually grade your essay question for you. Gapfill, which we also did not use yet in the PASST assessments. I think we will probably be using them down at the elementary level when we develop those next year. And then Open University multiple response, which is similar to the multiple response question that's already shipped with Moodle, but it has some things that we liked a little bit better. So those are the 6 that we're going to take a look at today. And out of those 6, the one that we have used the most in the PASST project, which, you know, again, teachers have been creating these social studies assessments. PASST, I should have probably said before, stands for Performance Assessments of Social Studies Thinking, which are designed to be assessments that teachers can take, download, and give in their classroom that are centered around our content expectations. And the item type from the Super 6 that we have used the most are drag and drop markers. Sometimes when I say drag and drop, people think I'm saying drag and drop, which is probably not something we want to think about. So it is drag and drop. And these are actually assigned for each of these a difficulty level. So if you're kind of new to Moodle and you're looking at these and you're going, oh man, that's advanced, it's not that you'll never be able to master it, because I started off not knowing anything about these as well, but I tried to assign them a difficulty level. So if you're new and you want to dip your toe in the waters, you can use the difficulty level to decide if this one might be right for you. The good news on drag and drop markers is that the difficulty level, depending on the type of item that you want to build, is either really easy or you can go as advanced as you would like. What this kind of does, to put in perspective for you, it creates you take a background image and students can kind of annotate it in some way. And again, I'll show you an example in just a minute. On the back end, it requires plotting a hot zone, because this is a question that can be automatically graded by the computer. So this hot zone allows you to specify, hey, if you drag these things into this hot zone, then we'll score the question correctly. And you can very easily create a circle or a square. You can also create a custom shape by plotting out each border point if you want to get mathy, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But here's an example of a type of question we built using the drag and drop markers. This might have been at one point a multiple choice question. It might have also been an essay question, but our teachers started to realize that, hey, we can have them build a chart. If what we really want to do is get to the heart of, in this case, classification, can they tell the difference between an economic question and a political question? We can provide those markers and they can drag the choices to where they should go, where they think they should go. So we created lots of chart type questions. We're at the tail end of the world history project this year. And again, like last year, we've built probably out of 200 new questions for those 3 grade levels, I'd say about 50 of them are these simple charts that are automatically graded. They're all asking different things, but in this case, all you do is end up plotting out a box, and you specify that 3 of these markers go in one box and 3 of them go in the other. Again, I'll show you the back end in just a minute. Doesn't have to be a chart. This is the back end of what it looks like. So you drag your image file up here that you want them to annotate, so to speak, and then you just create coordinates. Rectangles and circles are the easiest ones to do, but if you can see in the image, it's placed a little grid over it, so every dark green line is 100. So you plot out, based off of your X and Y axis here, where you want each edge of it to go. Again, this took a little bit of finagling the first couple of times, but once I realized that, hey, yep, remember back to high school math, you non-math consultant person, that would be me. Remember back to high school math, your X is going this way, your Y is going this way. So the point of 0, 0 starts the box here, and then you make it the height of 260 grid lines by 166, or however big your image ends up being. Another thing you can do with this for social studies, we always tried to push the envelope and make as deep a question as we could, but sometimes our content expectations wouldn't allow us to go much deeper. Sometimes you have a content expectation that is just, I will locate these 5 places on a map. So you can create a drag and drop question that lets kids, drag those markers to a map. In this particular case, they would drag up Panama Canal Zone over here. They drag Hawaii over here, Puerto Rico over here, yep, and Cuba. I think I may have just, no, I didn't. Yeah. Sometimes I look at the map and I forget all of the geographic knowledge I've come across in my lifetime because I've looked at so many of the maps, I second guess myself, but yes. So in this particular case, you'd be able to drag the markers up to a specific hot zone, which we drew in for the students. We didn't want to give them a whole map and say, where on this map. We wanted to, because this was for I believe this was for an 8th grade audience. We wanted to at least give them hot zones to drag these things into. So we added those ourselves. But again, on the back end, we just use simple circles this time. So if they're dragging the marker into that simple circle for Puerto Rico or Panama Canal or Hawaii, they would be able to just drag it in and go. That doesn't look right to me. All right. And then we got really sophisticated up at the high school level and the middle school level. We started to use this same drag and drop basis to create a Venn diagram question and a modified Venn diagram question. And so in this particular case, students have 3 different circles to drag things into, but because in this case, there are some things that are the same between Roosevelt's New Deal here and Reagan's market-based domestic economy. There are some things that overlap here. This is where you get an advanced drag and drop style question, because you have to plot out the edges of each of those circles to drag things into. We use a regular Venn diagram in the middle school, and we've, at the high school, created what we call the modified Venns that have the additional circle. And so on the back end, you can see it's a little bit messy. It takes a little bit longer to plot these out. Again, when you get used to it, it goes faster than you would initially think. But these, again, are good questions that, you know, maybe started off as a multiple choice or maybe started off as an essay that we kind of upgraded using the technology we had available. As far as what this question type can tell you, these questions we generally use to have students make a categorization or a classification. Only occasionally, like the map question you saw, that would be a depth of knowledge 1. We're really just asking them to locate those places on the map. But a lot of constructed response questions where students actually sit down and write, depending on what you ask them to do, because it's always dependent upon what students are doing, tend to be at a depth of knowledge level 3. And before the next gen style assessments came around and started doing things a little bit differently, your best option for assessing those was a multiple choice was a written response question. But now you can kind of get to those higher levels and with a well-worded drag and drop style question. So this is my favorite one. It's been the most widely used. I did not write all of the past items, but I have led several teams, and this tends to be, especially for newcomers that are trying to grapple with, well, what does it look like if it's not a multiple choice? This tends to be the one that we've used the most. So that's the first of the super 6. That would be drag and drop markers. There's another drag and drop. There's 2 more drag and drops, actually. And the second one is called drag and drop onto an image. This one is very easy to create because instead of plotting out points like you did with the previous one, you literally type in Moodle what you want the answer to be, and then you literally drag it up to where on the picture you want it to be in the behind the scenes piece. It's a really good question type for filling in a timeline or diagramming a process. It's really best, though, for a drag and drop style question that only has one right answer. So I want to take you back very quickly to the chart question. On this chart question, students are going to drag 3 things into the economics question piece, and they're going to drag 3 things into the political questions piece. But that sort of functionality doesn't work on this type of drag and drop item, because in this case, there is one right place for all of these things to go, and you can't put more than one thing in one slot, if that makes sense. So in this particular case, they want to fill in this chart, but only one thing goes across. And what's nice about it is students actually drag that question marker from down here up into the chart. It'll highlight in green, and if they release their mouse, it snaps into place. On the back end, like I said before, whoops, what just happened? Oh, Dave. Okay. On the back end, you upload your background image, you type in what you want each marker to be, and then you literally take your mouse on the back end and drag each one of those markers to where you want it to go. So it's a very easy question type to create if, like in this chart here, there's only one right answer per box. This one, again, can tell you the same types of things as the other drag and drop types. Students are able to make categorizations and classifications. This particular drag and drop, you could take a matching question and upgrading it. Again, only when written appropriately. I'm not doing a whole presentation on DOK here, but generally the depth of knowledge levels, DOK, it's in what you're asking the students to do. And this allows you to ask students to do things that they previously couldn't on an assessment without writing. Third type is drag and drop into text. We're not currently using this on a PASST assessment, but this is one of those times where I think a math teacher or even an ELA teacher might get really excited about some of the possibilities here. This sort of question allows for you as the teacher creating these to create a word bank. And that word bank can have several different, you can have several different word banks in your question. And it allows you to basically drag the word that completes the sentence up into it, or the couple of words that completes it. Again, it's very easy to create this kind because you draw, it's like the last question, you literally drag things to where you want them on the back end. But this is not my question. This came from the Moodle website. This is a sample of what you can do with it. So you can see there's 3 different word banks, and then there's one white, so you would only drag one of these white things up there. There's 2 grays, so you would only drag 2 of the grays up there, and there's 1 blue, and you only drag 1 of them in there. I think particularly with vocabulary and ELA, I also have an ELA background. This would be a question type I might explore for that. Before I go into the final 3, I've done 3 of the 6. Andy, I'm not closing the slideshow out, but are there any questions in the chat yet that they would like me to address before I move into the next ones?
Dave, so far, the little window that says questions, nobody has asked any. So I think the 3 viewers haven't shared. Maybe they can write their name in the question area, so we know who's watching today. So if you're up on the right where it says questions, we won't know it's a question, but if you just want to ask your name, enter your name over there. And again, that's in the Q&A pod that should be showing on the right. Okay, go ahead, Dave. I'll let you continue.
All right. Pattern match, and I realize now I dragged the wrong image to this particular slide, so ignore this close one and remember that beautiful picture when you see it on the next question type here. Pattern match is difficulty level difficult. This is something that I'm very excited about, but I am not implementing it in the PASST assessment suite until we've had time to get multiple years worth of good student essays in our hands to really build it from that. This allows for you to take an essay question and it allows the computer to score it. I'm going to say that again. In Moodle, this allows for you to take an essay question, a short essay question, and allow for the computer to actually score it. It does require some coding knowledge. It's not a lot of difficult coding knowledge, but it does require some. And the potential for this, I think, is pretty amazing. Like I said, we would love for a refresh of the PASST assessments to come out in a couple of years that, based off of 3 years of student work, we can, give you already pre-programmed these essay questions with some of those rules and guidelines built in so that it can be computer scored. On this front, however, if you did implement this, if you did go and download this and say, hey, this is my #1 priority to learn over the summer, just know that it's that it requires keywords, and I would still advise any teacher that uses them to continue to look at the essays until they're comfortable that it is doing a good job with it, because this does require some hard coding into the Moodle server, into the question type, that basically scans a student response for keywords, sentences, etc. So again, we haven't used it, but here's one that, we haven't used it officially. I've played with it, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but this is one again from the website, or from the plugins website. So you can see what spit back for the student, what has spit back for the students is the, are you still able to see my screen?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay, sorry about that. What you can see from the student end is that the answer is correct because of Rule 24. So you actually hard program those rules into the question type, and it allows the computer to score it based off of those rules. The authors of this plugin say that responses should be short. They say less than 20 words. I did test this on the PASST website with one question, and I typed in a 45-word response, and it did a good job. I think that they say less than 20 words just because the longer the essay gets, the more rules have to be applied to it. And I don't know if they've fixed that in a later version, but a short, concise response is easier to score. From a teacher's perspective, the time that you would spend coding the rules in could be worth the minimal grading effort that has to go through in the future. I would always recommend with computer grading of essays that the teachers still go back and look at those, but they're looking at it from a different lens, and I don't think it would take as long to do. So pattern match I'm excited about, but we haven't used yet. Gapfill is kind of a next generation style of the close question types. We haven't used it on PASST, but Gapfill is required to install the other Super 6. They share some code between them, which is why they require you to download all 6 of them at once. What you can do with this, it's very similar to that previous one that I showed you before. It's a closed type with drag and drop as the main functionality. And then the last one, we have used this quite frequently. It's probably our second most utilized question type in the PASST assessment suite. Our second one is called multiple response, or our sixth one, sorry, is called Open University Multiple Response. These are very easy to create. You're creating them pretty much the same way you would create a multiple choice question. It allows for a multiple choice style question that has more than one correct answer. There is some ability to do this already built into Moodle, but this one basically gives, why I like this one a little bit better and why our past writers have liked this one a little bit better, is because this one gives students the benefit of the doubt. If there are 6 answer choices and 4 of them are correct, and the student identifies 3 of them correctly but not the 4th, it gives them 70, if the question's worth 1 point, it gives them 0.75 points. It's not an all or nothing. It gives students kind of the benefit of the doubt. When you think about the purpose of assessment, if some of it's supposed to be diagnostic so you can see where students' misconceptions might be, or where they still need some extra work, this type of question does a better job than the one built into Moodle, because it's easier to say, I'm going to give you 3 out of the 4 points for this particular question because you got those 3. You're not getting full points for it because you didn't correctly identify all 4 of them, but we're not going to take, we're not going to give you a 0 on this question just because you missed one thing when you knew the other 3. And I think it's important to note too that just like many of the other item types I've identified today, Smarter Balanced, PASST, MSTEP, they're all using these types of questions where there's more than one answer. So this is actually a sneak preview of a question that's coming from the world history assessments, which we're in the process of finalizing right now. So in this particular case, how we've worded them is based off of the prompt above and your knowledge of whatever level of history it is. So in this case, based on the chart above and your knowledge of world history, which of the following statements are true? Select all that apply. We didn't tell them select the 4 that apply. We didn't tell them select the 2 that apply. And that's one place where I think we differ from MSTEP and SBAC. I think they've been telling them select 3 that apply or select the 3 that best apply. That's a wording thing. You can easily add that in. And what you're not seeing in this picture is over here, it tells the students how many points it's worth. So if each one of these is worth a point, they'd be able to tell from that as well. And then behind the scenes, if you've ever been in to put in a multiple choice question, it looks exactly the same. You type in your answer choices, you identify whether it's correct or not. You can even give some feedback. You selected this, but if you look back up at the chart, this is wrong. Why might this be? Take a look at this column. And you can also choose how you number the answer choices. So it can be A, B, C, D. It can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can be Roman numerals. It can be any of those. This one, again, it's similar to multiple choice. It still leans in some cases towards lower DOK levels right out of the box, but it allows you, if you have written a better question, it allows you to increase that depending, again, on what you're asking students to do. And it's better than the stock Moodle one because it's easier to assign point values and it's not all or nothing. Students can get partial credit using this particular item type very easily without you having to go in and hard code it in into the multiple choice question. So hopefully, I've just gone through the Super 6, and hopefully the reasons why you might want to install this, install these onto your Moodle server is apparent. They increase the number of question types you can ask students, and they allow you to create item types that are similar to what are on some of those next generation assessments. And ultimately, I think that if that's where we're going, in terms of the standardized approach, I think that you can get some valuable day by day, week by week, month by month data by creating some of these types of assessments in your classroom. I should note that as far as the past assessments have gone, some of the item writers are taking their assessments off of our server. Since we couldn't pay them, we thought, hey, we'll at least give you access to our Moodle server so you don't have to worry about it. And I can say that kids are interacting with these question types very well. Whenever I pull someone's data and just look at them and eliminate the student names, I look at the tech enhanced items, the drag and drops, and students are interacting with them very, very well. So I think that's a good thing to take away from all of this. I know that right now M-STEP testing is on everybody's mind and it's a dirty word, but as far as what these item types can tell you, it's pretty amazing. If you are interested, if you have social studies teachers that are near and dear to your heart and you would like to install the past questions onto your server, I've created a Google Doc. So I'm going to get out of my slideshow now. I've created a Google Doc that is linked in the Google Doc that you are all in right now, or that some of you are in right now. And what this does, it takes you to my instructions for importing the content. Even if you're not a social studies person, it takes you to the direct links for each of those downloads, for each of the 6 that we've looked at today. So you would be able to, directly link here and drag and drop them in. But if you are interested, we also have our courses available. These are Google Drive download links. So you would be able to click on it and download the grade level that you are interested in downloading so that you can put it into your Moodle server. And we did have, for whatever reason, because some of the files are big, we did have a couple of problems. The 3 most common problems, if it didn't go right into your server, are listed here along with instructions on how to fix it. Basically, the biggest one was the server timeout rate. It didn't import all the questions because the server timed out. We found a workaround for that. So this Google Doc, bookmark, share with yourself, because it, again, has the links directly to the past assessments and all of the plugins that you need. Andy was hopeful that I would share, what some of those question types look like in action, and I will still definitely do that. But before I do, now that I've been through the Super 6, who's got questions? What questions might there be?
Dave, in monitoring the questions so far, everybody, we have somebody from Ravenna, Kay Risa, and from Chris Kinnenberg from Dearborn Schools are on. I think there's one more person who didn't enter their name that came on after I asked. But the message from one person says it's very informative. It says we haven't spent very much time doing this, but we look forward to continuing learning about it. And there weren't any questions that people said. They're just enjoying hearing you and having you introduce this new topic to them that a lot of people wanted to learn about, and they just haven't taken the time. So thank you from them. I'll go back to you, Dave.
All right. Oops. I'm going to share again and quickly get out of here so you don't get the looping window here. Let me show you what some of these look like in practice. So I'm on the PASST website, which is, I may not have highlighted that in there, but I'll put it in this, I'll put it in this sheet right now. We've got email-based self-registration available, so you're able to, if you're wanting to see these in action, you're able to actually do that. You're able to create your own account and go right in. The US history ones are the ones that are done. We're finalizing the world ones right now. So if I go into the 8th grade US history, which you need a password for, we keep those under lock and key so that students don't stumble across them and get all the answers to their assessments before they even take them. But if I go into this one from the 8th grade level, here's how they kind of all play together into one assessment. First thing you might notice is that we've got 7 questions on this. So this is a smaller test, and it's a smaller test. All of our assessments are smaller tests than you would normally be inclined to give because they ask them to do a lot more. These tests still end up taking the good chunk of an hour to go through these questions, which I think is a testament to the students actually taking them seriously, which, you know, when it's your assessment in class, they of course would. So we've set it up so that you have, you always have some kind of a prompt that you take a look at, whether it's a map or a primary source. And for students with disabilities, we've actually built in audio recordings. It's all me right now this year reading them. Now that we have 11 other sites facilitating this, some people with better speaking voices than me will read them for the world history ones. But every question that has a passage, we've embedded the audio for as well. So this is your standard. This will someday be a pattern match question, and we'll use the rubrics that we've included with here, which are just basic. We encourage teachers to get rid of our rubrics and use their own. We just wanted to give them something. And so we would set up pattern match based off of the rubric, so it would assign a 2, 1, or a 0 to it. That functionality is not in there yet. You can see our regular multiple choice style questions. And then here is one of your selected response, or select all that apply, or yeah, multiple selection, there we go. Your chart question, again, are these economic or political questions? Don't judge me if you're a US history person, I am just randomly dragging. And everything you've seen so far, with the exception of this first question up top, the computer scores. This is that second type of drag and drop. So you can see I'm going to take this marker, I'm going to drag it up to, hopefully you can see that on your screen, but it kind of highlights in a green around it. And once you release it, drops it right into the box. Usually. There we go. I love how the tiniest one ends up taking so many, or taking up more room than all the others. It's just a plug-in thing. So again, there's only one right answer for each of those, which is why you'd use this question type as opposed to this one. Another essay question that will someday be pattern match. And then this is my favorite question out of all of the assessments. It's not just my favorite because I wrote this one, but it's my favorite because it's a good use of that technology piece. In the 8th grade US history, I can't quote it from memory, but there's a content expectation that deals with identify a Federalist and an anti-Federalist. And if it's appeared on the map before, it's been a list of 4 people and it said, which of the following were Federalists? And I taught 8th grade US history for a very long time, and I don't necessarily care that they remember the name of all the Federalists and anti-Federalists. I'd rather they remember what they did and be able to pick them out of a lineup. So this is that drag and drop question. And what we did, I mocked up this particular piece here, and we have quotes that these people gave. We're not asking them to identify who's who. I'm asking them to read the quote and figure out is this a Federalist speaking or is this an anti-Federalist speaking? And then drag the quotes to the appropriate bar. And then when I click on next, as most of you are probably already aware, I can then submit all and finish. And at that point, everything except the essay questions get spit back to the kids. So I didn't do so well on this according to my 11 out of 26, 42%. Maybe my grade will go up when I grade the essay questions, but probably not. We always kicked back for the student in the, after they get the question right or wrong, we always kicked back what the content expectation was and what the depth of knowledge level and where we got the source. We've also tried to build in, whenever possible, feedback on why the question was wrong. You can see I got this one correct. If I got it incorrect, it would say your answer is incorrect. You correctly identified 4 of them. It won't tell you which 4 unless you tick a box on the, if I go into edit question on this one, drop zone, markers, feedback. Multiple tries. Yeah, where did it go? Oh, right underneath. You can set it up by ticking that box to highlight the zones that have not had the correct marker dropped on them. So you can set it up so it will give them the answer. But we were, as item writers, happy to just say, your answer is partially correct. You've correctly identified 4 of them, or you've correctly identified 3. Let's see. Is that going to take me back? Yes. Okay. And then again, same for this one. This time it's going to say, your answer is partially correct. You've correctly selected 2 of them. So those are the question types in action. You've seen the ones that we've used the most. I can't stress highly enough, I'm techie, but when it comes to the server end of things, I'm not so much. And I installed these plugins myself. It really is just drag them in, drop them, and then go to your website or go to your Moodle site and go to administration, and it'll tell you what to do next. It's literally just clicking a button. It updates the database, and you're off and running. So as far as ease of installation, very easy, very easy. And that, my friends, is the Super 6 and what you can do with them. I'm always in the wrong slideshow. I'm always available if any of you, have questions at a later date and time. If I go back to the main title slide, my email address is my name at wmisd.org. And I would be, able to answer your questions that way through email, unless there are any right now that appear in the chat.
Dave, you've done a great job today of sharing. Let me share a couple of questions, and then I just want to summarize 3 things that you've said they would do. Let me first summarize those, and then I'll ask the question so I don't get them in the wrong order. One is they can download and install the PASST example courses on their site. However, they do need to be aware that they also need to download and install the 6 super question plugin types on their server in order for those courses to work, correct?
Correct.
And they could install just the question types and play around with the question types if they wanted without installing the PASST course, right?
Absolutely. The question types are not affiliated with PASST at all. We just found them and latched onto them.
Another thing that they could do is they could create an account on your Moodle server, so they could go in as a teacher, but it's a 2-step process. One is they have to first create the account, and then the second thing is they have to email you to get the enrollment code because you don't want students getting into that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that would allow them. Now, the two questions we have up here, and I put them also into the chat if you open up the chat on the side. One question was, what are the 3 social studies courses that you've developed past questions in? And maybe as you're talking about that, you might also talk about how could people engage their social studies teachers in sort of exploring these or using them. Then the second question from Chris Kinnenberg talked about, we have a project in the state that's called the Michigan Moodle Hub. It's through the RIMSI Association, where we're trying to have a way to share courses. And the question was, has anything been done to potentially share this course so that it can be available via the hub? So I'll leave it to you to answer those.
Sure. For the first question, what's been developed? Last year, we did all of the U.S. history, so that would be 5th grade, 8th grade, and high school. We have questions for every content expectation at those 3 levels. And this year, we are just finishing up work on what we're calling Project World. So that involves 6th grade, 7th grade, and high school world history and geography. So by the end of this year, you'll have all the U.S. done and all the world done. And then next year, we will work on civics and econ at the high school level and 3rd and 4th grade. And so if you end up on the PASST website, there's a listserv that you can join. And I recommend you fill that Google form out. I'll put you on the listserv, and you'll get an announcement when the world ones are ready this summer and when the new ones are ready for next year. And then for the second question, as far as the Moodle Hub goes, I had heard of the Moodle Hub before, but I haven't done any exploration. If that's a place where teachers and the Moodle administrators are placing things like PASST for download at the state level, then absolutely would love to share them on the Moodle Hub. The only reason we like to keep it on our server is because we do run into some questions that need updating, and it's easier to update them in one place than it is to update them in multiple. So that's the only reason why nothing's up there right now, but that's a conversation Andy and I can have after this is over to see what we might be able to do to get those in there as well.
All right, excellent. And there are some other people on the call. Chris, who is very involved with the Michigan Moodle Hub, and Chris Kinnenberg from Dearborn might be able to have that conversation with you and help facilitate that.
Sure.
One other thing before we leave is, Dave, I'd love for you just to take a second and talk about the shared textbook project you're working on, because I know you have a passion for that. So I'll let you. I know it's not quite in this Moodle arena, but while you have our ear, go ahead.
So as if PASST wasn't enough, I have one other initiative that is going on statewide, very similar process that we use to put these things together. But we are in the process of building social studies textbooks that are digital. It's called the My Open Book Project. You may have heard about it during McCall or after McCall. The website is textbooks.wmisd.org. And I know when everyone thinks digital textbooks, the first thing they're like, oh, great, it'll probably work on Apple products because they have that iBooks author thing. But this project will end up being device neutral. I use Adobe InDesign. It just is going to depend on what reader I tell you to download for whatever device it is that you're using. So these will work on any device. They're interactive. They're actually going to include some past assessment items on them so that there's a marriage and flow between the two of them. I've used some of the same authors, both this year and next, in putting these together. It's very near and dear to my heart because I think that, especially when it comes to textbooks that you purchase, publishers are slow to respond to the needs of digital learners. You hear often kids aren't learning today like they used to. You hear less often and you cringe when you hear it, but kids today are stupid. They don't know how to learn like we did. It's their brains have changed. And, whether we can argue until the cows come home, whether it's a good thing that that's happened or a bad thing. But the reality is it has happened. and textbook publishers in particular are quick to sell you a book that you have to buy every year that is no different from their static initial offering in paper. So what we've tried to do is build student text around our content expectations that teachers might utilize maybe in a flipped setting, maybe in a way we haven't thought of yet, that also gives students the opportunity to practice with interactive content. We've embedded maps. I've built drag and drop style items in there. And again, these will work on whatever device you have in your district, they'll work on. So excited to release these this summer too. It means I probably won't be sleeping much over the next month and a half, but it's a good thing. So these will be freely available to the state as well. And it's PASST's sister project. So I'm proud of both of my project offspring here.
Well, wonderful. Thanks for taking a minute to share that with us. And again, we'll put that link into our notes as well. That'll be out on the My Moodle site. I'll mention over one more time in case you need to see where that is. I'll let's see. So you're going to go to mymoodlemoot.org, and when you go to that, it will redirect to the RIMC supported page. And down here on the right, we have My Moodle Moot webinar series, and this will take you to this page. And here are the links, and down here is where the recording is. Last month, Chris Kennenberg presented on the social wall course format, and if you'd like to learn more about that, you can click here and watch the webinar. There's also a link to the plugins, and in the next couple days, we'll have a link to this recording as well as to his presentation, and we'll include the digital textbook, the open book project that is a link just for your reference. So I'm checking the messages in the right where people have asked questions, and at the moment, I don't see anything else. Any other? Oh, there was a question that said, why don't you just use ck12.org, which is a good question. You want to answer that? Why that wasn't your choice?
I did look into them back at the beginning of the whole process here. As far as what they have available, very little for history and social studies. And again, I just go back to they weren't necessarily built for the Michigan content expectations. We're a big state, but we're not California or Texas. So the difference between these is we actually will have them available for more than just US history. And they're actually centered 100% around our content expectations, so that there's no, extra information is good, but when you have pieces of information that are left out, we didn't want that. So they're basically built 100% around our expectations as opposed to other people's.
Well, I think one of the questions around there too is it's also a platform where you can use to build your textbooks. So even if you didn't use it around the content that others have, was that considered as being the tool to use to create your textbooks?
Yes, and we did look into that too. The major reasoning behind the way we ended up doing it is that you're limited with some of those platforms. We looked into a couple of others, and I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but you're limited as to what you can do in there. And I didn't want to, just like I didn't want to limit the PASST item writers to multiple choice, and I wanted them to invent things that hadn't been invented yet. The ability to do some of the interactive pieces that we have in the My Open Book project, you weren't going to be able to do with the CK12 and some of the other platforms that we looked at. So it ended up being more work on my end to put them together, but I think it's going to be a really good project or product.
And if somebody has a teacher that still wants to be involved with the open textbook project, are you still looking for people to be involved, or is that a pretty set group now?
We're full for next year, but if they teach any of the other grade levels that are outlined on the website, they're more than welcome to contact me. I've made great connections all across the state with this project, and I don't want to say no to anybody that wants to be a part of it. I'm just limited by the funding I have. So I find a way to work with them so they can email me.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think that, let me put me back up on the screen here. I think that ends it for the day, but a big thank you and applause to Dave for his awesome presentation. I think what he did today is a kind of example about what we hope these will be in the future. So if you know somebody out there that is doing something with Moodle that I don't want to necessarily say it's cutting edge, but it's something that you think, I mean, what Dave is doing here, I think is cutting edge, but it's something that helps support others. Even something that they're doing, maybe they use glossary in a unique way and you'd love to have them share, or books or lesson module, please get a hold of me or Chris Kennenberg. We're sort of organizing these, and once again, our goal for next year is to have these be about once a month, and go from there. All right. Well, Dave, I'll stop presenting and let you say bye, and thanks again.
Bye, everybody. Thank you very much. Contact me with any questions.
Thank you.